It Ain't Over Till It's Over. This is a documentary about Yogi Berra, one of the best baseball players of all time. He was the catcher on the Yankees World Series championship teams of the 50s, 60s, and then he became a manager after that. And even if you're not a baseball fan, you probably know Yogi Berra, Yogi Isms out there. It ain't over till it's over, and a bunch of other common sayings that are blanking out of my mind right now. But Yogi Berra was a beloved baseball figure who also was very humble and also with the everyman thing. He was an everyman who was a baseball Hall of Famer. He was a three-time MVP. So here's a guy who was teammates with Joe DiMaggio. And while Joe DiMaggio is off marrying Marilyn Monroe, he's going home to his wife and kids every night and just being a regular guy while having all of these World Series rings that you can see in this picture. He has since passed on, but this is a documentary that features his granddaughter as producer/host. So I've always kind of had an affinity for Yogi Berra. Yes, it kind of comes from Yogi Bear a little bit as a nickname, but Yogi Berra always had that fun quality to him, that easygoing kind of demeanor, that very oversimplistic and yet somehow still somewhat wise thing. So, It Ain't Over documentary coming out May 12th, number 7 on my May list.
I was a fan in the 90s of baseball. In the 90s, when the Toronto Blue Jays had those back-to-back World Series wins, that especially that first big run. I was living in Calgary at the time, Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Yes.
And otherwise, I haven't paid attention since. So I have certainly heard of Yogi Berra.
I am a major sports fan, almost as big as I am a movie fan. Yogi Berra was largely retired by the time I came along in the 80s and 90s as a sports fan, as a movie fan. So I only know him as an elder statesman, and he did live to be 90 years old. If people's children and their families are their legacy as well as everything else they do in life, then he is well represented in that category, at least in terms of filmmakers. You know, if you figure anybody who's got a granddaughter that wants to make a documentary about their grandfather, probably, unless he was just a real SOB, left a pretty good impression. So it's kind of nice to see a filmmaker.
Ty Cobb.
Yeah, like
I have seen some great baseball movies.
Yeah, I don't think Yogi Berra was spikes up when he was slided to second base. So
yeah,
so I'm hoping that, just to feel good
or hit his spouse, like
yeah,
these guys would do.
I hope that's not in this movie about Yogi or this documentary about Yogi Berra, but
it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I fingers crossed.
The log line does not, the deep secret behind the Yogi Berra story.
Well, if it was, then that would really change the meaning of "It Ain't Over" as the title of the film. So,
oh yeah,
so
a little dark now.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as lighter fare goes, documentaries and a tip of the cap, a tribute to a grandfather, Yogi Berra, "It Ain't Over"